Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Pilot Podcast.
Daven,
So,
welcome.
thanks for having me.
Yeah,
It's a really good setup.
it's been quite a journey so far. So, Dav, for those listening, and we go way back. Hey? I think we met when we were I was 5 years, 6,
Yeah.
at your birthday party. I know it's going to be dull for people listening, but it's important to the overarching theme of the story. Same school, same career, maybe different channels or paths within the career. But yeah, we've walked a long road together. And thanks for agreeing to come on the show.
Yeah.
In the limited time I know you have available, because your life changing quite a big way shortly, which we'll discuss later on in the podcast. But Daven, an entrepreneur at heart, very different route to what many people, I'd say the vast majority of the industry, would have taken to get to where you are now, which is most recent aircraft type of Embraer 145. Hey?
Yeah.
Daven was a founding member and primary driver of a charter company in a little place called Port Elizabeth called Blue Crane. Kind of drove this with support from some mentors, and you actually started up your own scheduled operation.
Yeah. Running from PE to East London initially.
Fantastic. Yeah, so that's what we're here to discuss today. You know, how you went about starting it, and also some of the lessons learned from that exercise, because I wouldn't know where to begin. You were doing this in your 20s.
Yeah. I didn't know much at that stage either.
So how you just went and did it. But you did it. Like, it's not something that I think many people would be able to do. It's difficult, it's risky, and so I think your story is such a valuable one for someone that might be looking at doing something similar.
Yeah.
But before we pop into that phase of your life, just for the people listening, a bit about you, where you're from, career, what got you into aviation and wanting to be a pilot in the first place. I think I have an idea though, but I want to see if I'm right.
Well, I mean, as you know, like I spent most of my life in Port Elizabeth, not actually from there. I'm from Pretoria, born there, spent 5 years in Pretoria before I actually moved to PE.
Yeah.
And then, I went to primary school and Afrikaans school in Pretoria. So I was fluent in Afrikaans once upon a time. Yeah, 100%. Woodridge changed it. I mean, that was a pure English school. So that knocked the Afrikaans down a level. But yeah, I mean, spent 93, I think I moved to, 92, moved to PE.
Yeah.
And then I moved back to Joburg in 2015. So
what was the journey, eh?
yeah, I've been here 10 years. So that's also quite a milestone, I think.
Now, where did the decision to become a pilot come from? A lot of people we went to school, they actually ended up being accountants, I think, the vast majority.
Funny enough, I actually loved accounting at school and that. And then I did my shadow week in grade 11, at the accounting firm of one of my dad's friends, and I hated it.
Really?
I could not sit.
It wasn't for you.
Could not sit behind an office desk in a dark, gloomy office for a week. I hated it. I loved the work, but yeah, I hated the actual sitting there. So aviation was a passion of mine from a small age. Used to love going to air shows or that sort of thing. And I thought, let me give this a try, see how it goes. Could get out, see the world or see places in Africa and that. And and apparently it's actually worked out semi-reasonably well. So
perfect. Yeah, definitely a different career path. And you trained in PE?
Yeah, Progress Flight Academy. It was just around the corner from where I lived, so that was convenient.
Yeah.
I looked at 43 Air School. It was a bit of a commute. It was nice, but it was a little bit more corporate-y feel for me, whereas Progress was like a much more laid-back environment, and being able to stay at home every day helped a lot. So,
it's going to reduce the cost a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've been to Progress, had a lot of exposure to 43. 43 is an impressive operation.
Yeah.
I mean, seeing what they've achieved over the years, and Progress also, I think it's been established. John's had a well-established operation there for many years. And also I'd say amongst the training community, certainly one that's well-known.
Yeah.
So Progress, did you come
I finished that in 2009, started 2007.
Okay, cool.
There was a couple of months that we actually couldn't fly because of the floods and that in PE.
Yeah, I
and
remember that.
having a grass runway does not help. So there was about 2 to 3 months that we were down in action, I think, where we couldn't do any flying. So that delayed my training a bit, unfortunately. But it is what it is. Mother Nature, you know.
Yeah, because I think it's actually that area is quite close to swampland.
Yeah. There's like a swamp
Yeah, there's
2
a
or
bit
3
of
k's
ingress
away.
there,
Yeah.
So I remember that guys were like taking canoes out their driveways and cruising around in the streets.
Yeah.
PE does get like occasional, like every 10 year cycle, you get that flood coming
Floods,
through.
yeah.
But finish your car, multi-IF, I would imagine.
Yeah. That was 2009. Then, did what everybody else did. Started looking for a job, eh?
So tell us about your journey.
2009 to 2012, I was basically unemployed as a pilot. You know, at
It was a tough time, dude.
at that stage, thousands of pilots looking for a job, you know, and
Yeah.
you come out with a 200-hour com. What do you know? And who's going to employ you? I mean, I did the walk of shame, as I call it, in Joburg. Did
Yeah,
that once
that's a
or
good one.
twice. Went up to Botswana for 6 weeks. Camped in a tent there. That was great experience, but couldn't get a job there because they weren't hiring at the time either.
How many people were out there looking for a job with you?
At that stage, there weren't that many. It was maybe 5 or 6.
All in the camping ground.
Yeah, a mate of mine that I went to at Progress with, he went up probably about a year earlier, and I mean, he got a job in 5 days being up there.
Okay.
And then when we were there, none of the companies were hiring. They were just like, sorry, you know, we had capacity and no one's leaving because of the market scenario, you know?
Yeah, it was flat. I think it was one of the economic crashes.
Yeah. And
It
yeah,
was a housing crisis, I think, started then.
so in between that, I was working as a barman at a squash club, at a sports club, and then I was working at a medical company as a quality controller, you know, pass the time and make a little bit of income here and there. And then I think it was late 2011, my dad and I were just discussing, you know, the issues with flying and what I'm going
Because
to
it's been 2 years at that stage.
Yeah, 2 and a bit years, yeah. And yeah, we just got into the topic, what would it take for me to be able to get into the air and fly? And I said, well, a plane basically. And then from there, we started just, you know, spitballing what's it going to cost to buy a plane or rent a plane just to build some hours to get to that. Because at that stage, you know, if you got 500 hours, you're employable.
Yeah.
Then how do you get the 500 hours?
You're employable on a sling.
Yeah.
152. 500 hours multi-turbine. Yeah, we'll get you a 152 job.
Yeah, exactly, right? So it was a tough choice. Like, what do you do and how much do you spend on it and that sort of thing. So
take us through this. So you and your dad is spitballing,
yeah,
trying to figure out, okay, hypothetically,
yeah.
if we had to start a company.
Not even starting a company, just buying an aircraft initially, you know, just to,
Yeah.
and then from there it went on to, okay, but then if we got some of his colleagues to fly because they traveled a lot, then, you know, how would you do that? Because you can't just fly for remuneration without a company. And so it slowly progressed into, okay, you actually need an aircraft and you need a company.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what did you buy first, the company or the aircraft?
The company.
Okay, so take us through that. How old are you at this stage?
22, 23, about there, yeah.
And your dad, obviously, experience in aviation and
Zero experience in aviation. I mean, he had experience in companies, but when it comes to aviation and regulations and that, yeah, zero.
so you guys are just working it out.
Yeah, so I started researching on the laws of what we required, that painstaking hours, lots and lots of painstaking hours, just climbing into the law and finding out what you need. So initially we started looking at starting our own aviation license, you know, through the Air Service Licensing Council. But we realized that's 18-month process if you're lucky and everything's correct and the paperwork's 100%, because it's a very long process.
Yeah.
So from there we looked at, can we piggyback on another AOC? And then we actually did. So
Yeah.
our company we operated on behalf of Aviation at Work at that stage. That was the company's name.
Aviation at Work.
Yeah.
What was their
So
whole
they
thing?
had caravans, they did charter work. I think they did a bit of firefighting as well.
Where did you come across these guys?
The guy that sold us the aircraft, the Cessna 414 that we bought. So we found an aviation broker in Joburg to help us. We were looking at a Navajo, we were looking at a Chieftain, 402, and then we decided on 414 because we needed something that's pressurized. It's more business friendly for the businessman, Because at that stage, my dad's colleagues and that were also moaning that, Airlink was operating PE to East London, but they're hell of expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, a ticket at that stage, I think, was like 1,800 Rand one way.
What were they operating?
The Jetstream 41s.
Okay.
So we were looking at something, I mean, a King at 200 or 1,900 would have been ideal, but the price range of that, now you're talking about millions of dollars, so there was no ways we were going to fund that kind of venture.
Okay.
So we were looking at like a small twin piston that could carry a couple of people in that.
Why not a single engine caravan, or say there was that single engine piston that was around took about 8 seats. I'm trying to remember.
Not the Saratoga.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Piston jobby, very slow, high wing. Name eludes me.
Not Airvan, no.
Yeah, was it Airvan?
Airvan, yeah.
Why not something like an Airvan? Why don't you guys look at that?
We looked at the difference between the single and the multi, and it's just the perception from a customer point of view. You look at a multi-engine, it's safe. You look at the single, they're like, oh no, we don't want to fly in that because it's only got one engine. Whether it was a turbine or reliable or not, just that customer.
They wanted 2
Yeah,
engines.
exactly.
Because the plane comes with 2 engines.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's safe,
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so
yeah, I mean, we test flew. Well, I went on some test flights with the Navajo, Chieftain, and the biggest thing was they were unpressurized, they were noisy. So you wanted comfort levels as well while you're flying. So that's where we settled on a 414.
okay.
Funny enough, there weren't many in the country at that stage. So,
where did you get this 414 from?
Austria.
Austria.
Yeah, so the broker found one. Good price, low time, that sort of thing. So went up to Austria to have a look at it. It's quite a nice aircraft. And yeah, that's where we took the plunge on that.
So obviously the 200, very expensive, millions of dollars.
Yeah.
The single engine pistons have been eliminated because a perception 2 planes. I think there's also some regulatory requirements around that for a 135 operation.
121
operation. You 121?
Yeah.
121 operation.
Yeah, it was a schedule. So
Yeah, of course. Hey? Goodness.
So
You did have your hands full for 23-year-old, eh?
yeah. So I mean, the 414 then sort of fell in the price bracket that we were looking at.
How much was it?
I think it was between 200,000 and 300,000 euros at that stage. I think it was about 12 to the euro.
12 to the euro.
15.
So in
It was
rand
about
dollars?
3 million rand, I think, give or take. About 3 million rand, give or take. To put in perspective, a King Air 200, you're looking at $1 million. So that's like, at that stage would be 12 to 15 million rand. So, there was a massive difference in the investment.
And capacity difference?
King Air 200, you're looking at 10 seats, whereas the 414, we could do 8 seats.
That's not far off. And I'm sure you ran the numbers.
7 seats.
7 seats.
Yeah.
I'm sure you ran the numbers on the operating costs and that kind of thing. How did you find they were in terms of cost power to operate the 414 versus like a 200?
At that stage, avgas wasn't expensive compared to, now it's more than double the price of Jet A1 per litre at the moment. At that stage, it was almost the same price, maybe about 20% more expensive. But because it was such a short route, the King Air 200 would get there maybe 5 minutes faster than the 414 because it was only a 40-minute to 45-minute flight for a 414. So, if you were flying to Joburg, it would be a massive difference.
Yeah.
But and also the rest of the routes, which we'll talk about later, that we wanted to do, it's, you're looking at maximum hour route. So yeah, it's slightly slower, but...
How did you run the numbers on that?
We did basically a cost per seat and then per kilometer ratio.
Okay.
We used Excel, my dad's accountant, which was very good at that stage. We just played around with the numbers to see what would work and what our break-even point. I think we were looking at 3.5 seats at that stage in the 414.
Okay.
If my memory serves me, I think about 3.5 seats. So after 3.5 seats, if you factor in all the costs of our house that we bought, that we turned into an office, receptionist, the company bus, salaries, all of that, 3.5 seats I think was the break-even point. Then after that, we'd start making profit. So if you think about it.
That's not bad, eh?
No, if you think about it, only selling 4 tickets and you're making a bit of money. It's not a lot, but you're making some money.
That's okay. So you decide on the 414. You've run your cost analysis. You got your spreadsheet. You run the numbers. You've worked out its cost per K,
seat.
cost per seat. Hey?
Yeah.
And the 414 comes out the contender.
Yeah.
Okay. We know the airplane, but you also said you had some routes in mind, and you mentioned the one was particularly short. So, what routes did you plan on, and what was your inaugural route, and why did you choose specifically that sector?
So we looked at the East London route because it wasn't just because Airlink was doing it. At that stage, they were doing it, but it was expensive, and a lot of my dad's colleagues were flying to East London because they were doctors or lawyers and that, and they were moaning about the pricing. So we thought, well, just word of mouth, we could then take up that sort of like niche market just from my dad's inner circle. Before even marketing it,
Yeah.
Because we worked on a 12-month cycle, and then from there, the plan was to purchase more aircraft, especially the 4-4, or purchase a bigger aircraft if that route did well, and then move the 4-4 onto a different route to then experiment with that route. Because, as I said, it was relatively cheap to operate at that stage, a twin piston.
Yes.
So we were looking at routes like, initially it was PE East London, then PE George, PE Umtata.
Yeah, Umtata definitely is not a favorite to drive.
Exactly. And we were looking at like Bloemfontein for longer routes because nobody flies the coast to Bloemfontein.
Sure.
And then mixing it up like George Bloemfontein and those sort of routes, that.
And
that
you
was
only
the
need
goal.
to sell 3 seats to break even.
Yeah. So that was the goal in mind, because also it was, at that stage I had 200 hours, so I couldn't fly as a PRC. So, we got an instructor from Progress that I was pretty good mates with, and he was experienced, and he took the captain seat, and I started as the FO to build the experience in that. And the idea was you have a captain and FO, young FO, low time, that then flies for 2 or 3 years there. Then he becomes a captain, and that captain moves off to an airline or somewhere bigger.
Or bigger aircraft on the fleet.
Yeah, and then you just start bringing in low time guys that have just finished training that can't get a job because of the market. Like I said, you know how long you spent unemployed, and you had to go do instructing basically to get a job.
Yeah, it was.
That was the only real job at that stage. If you didn't like instructing, what did you do?
That's
like
if
me.
you could get an instructing job. Those were few on the ground at the time.
Yeah, I knew I wasn't going to be a good instructor. I didn't have the patience to teach a guy that knew nothing about flying to fly.
Yeah.
Later in life, I actually enjoyed the mentoring side with young guys on the 200s and the 1900s. But at that stage,
Aviation, not for you.
No.
Okay.
So that was the idea behind the company, not just to help me and maybe make some good money out of it, but also to like find a place in the market to increase the turnover for youngsters that didn't have experience.
Give them an opportunity to build some good multi-engine time, and then
move on and get the next lot.
So you've nailed down the airplane, you've nailed down the routes. You mentioned that you guys obviously did it properly. You wanted office space. Was it at the airport? And at the airport?
So we looked at the airport. The rental would have just been too expensive. So we found a house that was, I think, 1.5 kilometers from the airport.
Yeah.
We purchased that, and we purchased the vehicle. So the idea behind it was we also wanted to offer sort of a VIP lounge experience. The passengers would rock up at the office or the house we bought a house and we converted it. There was a lounge there. Basically, they could have a cup of coffee, some muffins, snacks to eat, and they just sat there for 20 minutes, half an hour. Then when everybody was ready and check-in was closed, then the receptionist in our van would then drive into the airport. They'd climb straight off the bus, straight through security and straight onto the aircraft. So it was quite a niche experience. You don't have to go sit and wait.
Catering to that professional market that you
exactly.
guys had.
Time is money. Yeah, that's basically what it was.
Okay.
So that was the idea behind it. The guys that flew with us really enjoyed it. They said, it saves them time. So yeah.
And they don't have to drive those awful roads.
Yeah, or leave their cars at the airport where they incur parking costs,
Yeah. So, Dav, you have these great ideas. A lot of people have good ideas.
Yeah.
To make them reality is a bit difficult. It sounds like a very expensive business to start up.
Yeah.
How did you raise the funds or get people together to finance this idea? How did you do the proposal? How did you present it? What did you include in it? What was the deal there?
So basically, bunch of my dad's friends and colleagues that he either invests with companies like through Neisner and that sort of thing that he knows. We sat down at the table and we said, look, we've got this venture. It's basically to help me, but it's also the long-term goals are to help other pilots and maybe actually get a nice return on investment if this works out the way the paper says it will work out, So we just sat down and we said, this is our budget for the next 12 to 18 months. From about month 16, I think we said all the debts would be paid off and we'd actually start turning a profit if it worked out how we forecast.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we had a couple of guys that were interested in investing, and we just took it from there with the company. We had a couple of guys that then invested into the company along with my dad.
Okay.
I can't remember the exact number. I think it was 6 or 7 investors in total.
All right. So they all pull their funds together into the company account.
Yeah.
They all take a share, and you guys now go ahead and implement this.
Yeah.
What was the timeline from, cool, I've got the investors on board, to getting the airplane, getting the property, getting the vehicle, the staff, and then actually launching it?
So like I said, we started looking at this in early 2011. We did our first flight 2013, I want to say. I can't remember the exact month, but it was early 2013. So about 2 to 2.5 years of
Lead in, hey?
Yeah, of getting everything going. And a lot of it was with the CAA, submitting manuals, get rejected, you have to change that, alter it, resubmit. So that took a good 4 to 6 month process just to get our paperwork correct for the CAA.
And how did you go about putting together your operations manual, everything that's required to meet the legal requirements
So we
for
used
CAA?
Aviation at Work's template basically, and then we altered it to we're basically a satellite station of Aviation at Work.
So you're
operating out of-
piggybacking on the AOC.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we basically took their templates and then we just altered it to what we needed and how we wanted our company structured and run.
And who did all the maintenance on that aircraft? What was the plan there?
So Dave Hart out of East London.
Earhart.
Earhart. Unfortunately, PE didn't have a AMO at that stage that could service it, and the closest was East London. And we thought it wasn't a terrible idea because it's an hour's flight and we're going to be there for the whole day with the passengers, because our initial schedule was 6 a.m. departure in the morning, and then we depart that side at 5 p.m. But the nice thing we had was, because we were so small, we kept in contact with the passengers throughout the day. We basically said, if you guys are finished at 3 o'clock and everyone's ready to depart at 4, we'll depart at 4 o'clock.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so, but we made it clear there was no pressure. If only one person could depart at 5 o'clock, we stick to the time, no issues. So it was, it's...
You already had like a little VIP operation
service.
going.
Yeah,
It's brilliant.
Yeah, the idea was quite good.
Okay, so when you started, obviously you've got to kind of attract people to this operation.
Yeah.
Marketing, I imagine, is a big deal.
Yeah.
What was the approach in terms of drawing attention from the public to your new operation and getting the buy-in from the general public to say, this is a good idea, you should fly with us?
So we advertised on Radio Goa at that stage. We also had flyers that we stood at robots over weekends, Friday afternoons, handing out flyers. We did that for
Flyer drop, yeah.
Yeah, a month or two. We stood at the robots and just handed flyers out to the general public, because that's also who we were catering for, because the tickets weren't expensive. It wasn't.
Yeah, they were cost effective compared to and the other operator that was on that route.
Yeah.
At the same time, you're offering a more
personalized service.
Yeah, bespoke experience, premium service.
It's not just a flight you're offering. It's a whole experience.
Yeah, and what else? Imagine company websites.
So we try to target specific companies, mining companies, that sort of thing. That flew to Mthatha. We did some charters as well. Couple of companies actually used us once we got up and running quite exclusively. We do 1 or 2 charters a month to say Mthatha from PE. So that was sort of a bonus. We were going to charter, but we weren't like counting on that. But that we were flying that often for them was actually quite nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you get going.
Yeah, it's
you got going. Sectors are going. Obviously, it's not continuing anymore.
No.
However, first couple of months of operation, how did it go?
It was slow, as to be expected. I think our passenger loads on a monthly basis we're working at 2 packs a day, but also we didn't have to fly every day. If there were no bookings for the day on either leg, you didn't have to fly. Okay. If you had only one person from East London coming back, you'd have to go pick them up, empty there, and one person back. So it was actually picking up quite nicely. Our 1-year projections, I'd say we're a little bit behind what we were hoping for, but we weren't far off. The charter flying had picked up. We were doing flights to Springbok, random places like that,
Dar and those kinds of places, yeah.
Kimberley, we actually did 1 or 2 flights to, so it was interesting. Because nobody in Port Elizabeth at that stage was actually available to charter an aircraft, from what I understand. There was no twin
So you had the whole market, the whole
Yeah.
charter market there.
So it was starting to pick up from the charter side more than we anticipated. The schedule side was picking up. Like I said, a little slow, maybe 10 or 20% than we projected. But it's you factor in buffers and that sort of thing. And the first year went well. Hey, so
Why was so you said it was slow initially, but it was below projections.
yeah.
But it was picking up. Why do you feel that the uptake was slower than anticipated?
Smaller aircraft, I would definitely say. Twin piston aircraft, guys are used to flying on the smallest aircraft, kind of like other operators, Jetstream 41, that the smallest aircraft, but then also, 737 or something. So trying to get the public trust in, it's an aircraft, it's maintained the same, it's looked after the same, just flies slightly different, slightly noisier, slightly lower. That's about it.
And the uptick from the passengers, was it the market that you were targeting at, or was it a range of people?
It was a range of people, I would say. A lot of it, the East London route, a lot of it was the businesses, and we had a couple of repeat clients or passengers, which helped a lot, to show loyalty and value.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So first year, seeing an uptake in the passenger numbers, charters going really well, far better than expected, business is growing. When did you guys start to encounter some en route turbulence, if we'll call it that?
August 2013. I did a partial wheels up landing.
What happened?
So